Hey Casey, I'm coming to you now a couple of weeks after the shooting on Valentine's Day, where 22 people were shot and one person was left deceased, Lisa Lopez Gavon. By now, you've heard a lot of messages from community leaders and folks throughout our community expressing their sincere condolences and frustrations, as well as just simply reacting to the very traumatic event that occurred. Since then, and actually since this year has began, we've lost 29 people to violence in our Kansas City metropolitan area, 19 of them in Kansas City, Missouri as well. And it doesn't seem as though violence is going to reduce. When I talk about the 19 people that we've lost to violence thus far, when I look at last year's numbers, we had 22 people. So we're not far behind. Last year was our most violent record to date, with 182 people, 185 if you count police-involved shootings, but 511 people who survived a shooting as well. And we're not off to a great start. In fact, we're almost ahead of non-fatal shootings this time last year. So my thoughts and prayers certainly go out to everyone out there. Today, I've spent some time in court with clients that we've worked with for a number of years whose loved ones have been taken senselessly to violence, and it's taken a lot of time for them to receive justice, and those who are involved and that were involved in their loved ones killing are being brought to justice today. Sitting in that courtroom and watching both sides, one of the families of the perpetrators as well as the victims' families, it really occurred to me that there's truly a loss on both sides. Whenever someone chooses violence, there's always going to be a loss on both sides. The person that is immediately impacted by that violent act, that either gets left 6 feet under or in someone's emergency room. And then the person that pulled the trigger or the person that committed that act of violence, they're either lost to the system or they themselves are forever changed, in addition to being lost in the system as well, or lost to the system. The biggest difference is that person who pulls the trigger is still alive. And they're stuck with those demons, they're stuck with those nightmares. But so are those families. Everyone is going to experience, and everyone does experience violence differently. And that's part of what my message is for you all today. I recognize that so many of you, even following the parade shooting, are going to be triggered. Whether you go to a basketball game or if you go to places where there's a large crowd, you're going to be triggered. You're going to begin to think about the last time you were around a large crowd. And some of you are still waiting, and maybe it's too soon to do so. I know there's concerts coming up. And my message to you is don't let that incident deter you from living your life. But also I want you to recognize that if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating regularly, those are just a couple of signs that you need to talk to somebody. And there are licensed professionals throughout our community, and Ad Hoc Group Against Crime is one of those community organizations that offers counseling services. Now, I know a lot of people feel as though, oh, I don't need counseling, I'm not, crazy, this, that, and the other. It's really about developing the skills so that you can cope with traumatic incidents a lot more healthier, so that you're not being dependent upon substance abuse or isolating yourself. And when you isolate yourself or you depend on substance abuse, those kinds of things begin to have a toll on your body, your mental state, and ultimately how you interact with others. And so that it begins to become toxic, and those behaviors become toxic, and they begin to just manifest themselves in different ways. So I want to encourage you to seek help. You can give us a call at 816-753-1111. And there's several other community organizations out there that offer services that are free of charge as well. Lastly, I just want to speak to those who have chosen violence in their life, or who know folks who have the tendency to lean towards violence. My first message is to just stop and think. Stop and think about the consequences of your actions. Stop and think about the fact that there are people out here who love you. There are people out here who care about you, and your actions will ultimately impact them as well. Secondly is to consider walking away. If you consider walking away, everybody gets to go home whole. And then thirdly is, and this is the most difficult part, is to look for forgiveness. And I know that that's a difficult thing to consider because it is not easy when you feel disrespected or you feel someone has done you wrong. But when you forgive others, sometimes it's really less about that person and it's more about you and your own well-being. Because when you release that anger and that frustration, you'll automatically feel the physical presence of that release. And then also, it positions you to be a little bit better than the person that offended you as well. And so that practice of forgiveness is and can be very transformative. So join us in practicing forgiveness as well. Stop and think, walk away, practice forgiveness. Those are just a few things that we can do to resolve conflict peacefully, because that's what the majority of what we're seeing throughout our community, people resolving conflicts with violence. If you need some help with that, Ad Hoc Group Against Harm offers healthy relationship classes. It's not just about intimate partner relationships, it's about how you interact with others, how you recognize your own behaviors, how you recognize toxic behaviors as well. It's all about having healthy relationships. And so you can give us a call. Again, the number is 816-753-1111. Or of course, you can also look us up on all of our social media that's out here, that's right there on the bottom of your screen as well. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Take care.